My name is Jeff.
My name is Matthias.
Being honest today.
Yeah. I'm gonna transition at some point later on. Like I'm Matthias right now, but who knows what can happen, right? It's a long day.
And today we're going to be talking to you specifically about line breaks. We have taken a poem from ChatGPT. Another one. You may remember.
It's my cousin's name.
Chat or GPT or ChatGPT?
Both. It's ChatGPT.
The
second, which ironically enough, she's really the third, but she got number one out of there. Don't ask us how. Okay, there's a lot of intrigue in that story.
We were in Texas. One of our friends was a coach at I think it was like a middle school football team, and one of his favorite players, his name was the one. Like the one.
His name was the spelled that way?
It was like I don't know the spelling, but the pronunciation was he's the one.
Was he good? Yo, that would really be horrible. It's like the one coming off the bench. The one coming off the bench, putting in his season high 2.5 minutes a game.
Like last player to draft in NFL. Irrelevant is the one.
Anyway. Man. Shout out to the one if you're out there. I mean, just listening to this podcast. We're sorry, but that's hilarious.
We're not making fun of you. It's your parents.
If you're listening to this podcast and you're not like a pro at what you do, then we kind of made our point, didn't we?
Well, there are those twins, right? With the twin. You heard about like the twin study? Like one was named the winner, and the other one's named like loser or something like that. And then like
what?
Yeah. Horrible.
Is this a common? Oh, you just know that study where it's like one is like the winner and one is the loser.
People taking psychology, they know what I'm talking about. But like it ends up that like the kid named like loser actually ends up having kind of like the more socially viewed successful life, like the higher paying job and things like that. And like all the psychology that goes into it, because it's like you're kind of constantly trying to prove yourself or something. Maybe I don't know.
I feel like so here's the thing. Everybody just look in the. Is this my camera? There's only two. Is this my camera? Listen, so I'm a middle child. Okay, so that means that like I feel like all the pressure of being like the first child, like that's like my wife is a first child, right? And she's done great stuff. Shout out to my wife out there. But I feel like when you're like the second and you got some of that pressure, like I feel like it makes you more social. You know what I'm saying? I could just like do a podcast.
Is that the stereotype in the middle?
Is it?
Kids that they're more socially because they're just hungry for attention. You okay over there?
Yes. It's not like I would be on a podcast and have 3 cameras trained on me. God.
No, I only have 2.
Love me.
But believe it or not, we're going to be talking about enjambment and ChatGPT. Before we get into that, though, just to highlight a couple of things that are going on.
Let's highlight it up.
News-wise, from our perspective.
Oh, did it do it?
Oh, it did. There it is. Yeah. And it's taking a second to load. I might try again. Hang on.
Can I make this closer to me? Can I put it
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matthias taking over our soundboard.
Yeah.
So my apologies for that. Not responsible for whatever happens.
He kind of is. Like, aren't we all responsible?
Okay, so we have residency coming up. Unfortunately, the early bird applications are now closed. So, but the applications are still being accepted. In case you don't know, we are basically running residency from Friday, December 8th through Sunday, December 10th. Something to keep an eye out on. Specifically, we are targeting 2 female poets. First poet, our collective resident, must be a poet of color, and you also receive a $200 stipend upon being selected. The second poet, unfortunately, we don't have a stipend yet, at least not this round. But you will get to stay in the space. In addition to that, each of the poets who are in the space will have a featured reading on the night of December 9th, which will be recorded, and you will also receive a copy of the recording to be used as you see fit. So if this sounds like something interesting to you, you would like to have a little residency Friday through a Sunday in December, I encourage you to go to theversuspoetry.com and click on the residency tab and fill out our application form. So that way we can get you situated.
Yeah, we're gonna judge the residency like a tribunal from Demolition Man. You know when they were like all those judges.
Demolition Man.
You've never seen Demolition Man?
No.
Yeah, let's boo that.
Yeah.
That's rough. Well, essentially, there's a tribunal and there's like all these screens and they're judging. Which is all just to say we're not going to really judge it like that. But that was the joke that Jeff was supposed to get because he was supposed to have seen the movie. So the real lesson that we learned today is Jeff needs more introduction to popular media. Why did you laugh?
felt right. I'll do it again.
That's fair.
That's the song. that's okay. So collective residency is coming up. Also, we're starting another new thing. I feel like every time you come, I have another thing I'm throwing at you. So we're starting a new thing.
The first new thing was like this podcast. I just like came over there to hang out, and he was just like, just sit down in front of this camera,
this microphone
for like an hour and a half. Let's just talk about some stuff.
Talk. It'll be fun. So look at this guy. First of all, this is our logo. I made this for now.
That's fair.
I made it on
He was like a nice guy.
/great. I like the one eyebrow. But Pepin Poets. So basically, I will give you free pizza if you sit and talk with me about poetry for an hour.
Who's seeking attention now, Jeff?
On first Sundays, 2 to 3 p.m., we're meeting at a pizza shop called Yellow Brick Pizza, west side of Columbus. And it's one of the things that I think happens a lot of times in cities is, cities often have open mics and things like that. They have their shows, which is great, but they don't necessarily have a lot of the other infrastructure to discuss other aspects of writing. So for instance, like the opportunity to talk about craft, opportunities to talk about, hey, I'm feeling depressed about my publications or things like that. So this is kind of just a chance to talk about poetry, but not have like a featured reading or an open mic. It's just kind of like a poetry discussion to see where people's heads are at.
Yeah, whose voice was that you were doing when you're like, I'm just depressed about my publications? What?
That was me.
That was
entirely me. I wish you wouldn't make fun of me.
Well, it's too late now. I've already started.
Now for this, our first round, we are limiting seats. So if this sounds like something you're interested in and you're in Columbus, you can send us a message. I'll try to put a link out also afterwards. Our first session is going to be for civil. And I think right now, 3 or 4 of the seats are already taken. So we have 2 seats left. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, first things first, you do have to find it. So if you type in like Pepin Poets on Facebook, you do have to join the group first and then comment on the post. And that way you can reserve your seat.
Sounds cool. And if you try to come and you haven't reserved, then there's going to just be a bouncer at the door. Just going to kind of like jazz on Fresh Prince. You've seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
I have seen Fresh Prince.
Jeff is from Philadelphia, so if he hadn't seen Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, we'd have to cut this entire thing off and then just watch the entire.
Or just cut me. Just cut.
I mean, we'll probably do both at some point in the course of this podcast career. But yeah, one of the things that I really like about this idea and about like how I'm sure it's going to really pan out is that I think a lot of times community is based. I mean, when we're talking about poetry community, it's like really based around hearing each other's work just in specific. You know what I mean? Just like specifically, let me listen to your work, which is like cool. Like that, to be clear, that's good. That's like positive. But this is something you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of spaces that act as somewhat of a networking, like collaborative space around the the functions of like kind of the poetry space. And so like not just talking about what the work is or what the work is doing, which is probably going to be a lot of that as well, but there's a lot of, okay, where are you publishing, or where are you trying to reach out, or what are you trying to do, what kind of residencies are you going out for, or whatever those situations are. So it's like, yeah, this is something that if you are interested in kind of creating community that is, I'm sure we're going to like expand like you know, as the time goes, but like as if you're interested in kind of cultivating community that's, you know, that's outside of the typical bounds, this would be really, really good. So if you haven't joined, just go ahead and click on, like, just be friends with the page. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Love the page.
Yep.
Love this. What are we calling this guy? What are we calling this pizza guy?
Oh,
He has eyes, and so we have to name him or them,
that's
or I don't know what, I don't know if it's a guy or girl. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing with that.
We should have a naming contest.
We should have.
Well,
we should do that.
Let's do a naming contest for our. If you guys have a name for our pizza friend here,
yeah,
let us know.
Like and you'll win $1 million if it's chosen. Now, it could either be $1 million or, and this is of equal value, a slice of pizza if you win.
I mean, to be fair, we are doing already. If you come on the first Sunday and you're selected, you will get free pizza. I will pay for your pizza.
Well, now you took that sign up away. Now we have to leverage it out with something else.
Maybe I'll have a free second slice of pizza.
Sign me up.
Come hungry, you know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna name him Dan.
Anyways, I guess while we're at all of this, that was disgusting. While we're at it, let's do this. You love that.
No, it's not even October yet. Like we should do that in our. There should be a little spider coming down with it. Like God, it's like that's.
So on Threads, we asked people to write a poem and provide their own responses. We got a response, so we'll take a look at theirs, and then we will also share our own. I might start with theirs first. This is from Katie Talks, and the prompt was yes. So first of all, thanks to Katie Talks for getting involved. We appreciate that. Katie Talks was answering the prompt. The sound of school. That's your prompt. Just the sound of school, and this is the prompt that they gave. So they sent us the poem "Forest School." The woods are both classroom and playground. Bare feet patter on the dirt floor. Bows creak under climbing hands. Cicada cries harmonize with their laughter, which rings through the wood. Twigs snap, building materials for their boundless play. Give that up one more. Again for Katie Talks. Appreciate the sound imagery. That's something I just feel like in poems. That's something I'm always looking for. Is just like, okay, so many poems are so focused on visual. Where are the other senses? So it was great to see all the sound involved.
Yeah, I like that. It was good. Thank you, Katie.
So thanks to Katie.
Katie Talks.
We encourage you guys.
What if her first name is just Katie Talks and we should not be shortening it?
Are you saying that she's like ChatGPT's cousin?
Exactly. Shout out. Thank you, Katie Talks. Insert last name here.
By the way, guys, we look at people's prompts every week on the stream, so keep an eye out on our threads where we announce what the next week prompt will be. I wrote part of a poem. I did not finish, I'll be honest, but I did get a poem started. Yeah, so we're gonna go back to childhood trauma. This The Sound of School, the working title. In my memory, a latch I have not finagled for decades, thank God. The epoxy floor ended at the exits. To be forgotten, like the code to a master lock, is the essence of adolescence. There was a time, after all, I counted pimples in a bathroom. The minute I heard footsteps leave the stall, the constant squeeze of metal braces, content to turn enamel into rubber as I studied countenance in gaps between graffiti and the mirror. Is it too much to say I am triggered like the mutt walking my son to school? Unfinished, but that's where I'm at currently. The boo button is a little higher. Oh, I got the golf clap. All right. Get the golf clap.
That's
All
good.
right.
I like that.
And you told me you wrote a little something.
I did write something. Okay, I don't have a title for this.
So the prompt is the sound of school.
Okay. A siren's wailing in the back of my skull now. Detention or class.
Snap.
Yeah.
Snap.
Let's go ahead and hit the blue. Okay. Now that was, as you poetry lovers and aficionados might recognize, even if you've been following the podcast, that's what we call a haiku, right? Now, some might say that I wrote it because it's, some social commentary on the school system and the prison system's mirror reflection. Or you might say that I wrote it because I only wrote it this morning when I woke up. Either way, it works. So shout out to haikus and all the people out there that write haikus.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Perfect. Yes.
I'm with you, my friends.
Haikus are very fancy.
That's the fancy one.
Jolly good.
Good show.
Good show. All right. I think that takes us through all of our main thingamabobs. So then we get to whatchamacallit. So we can get to our main event, which is playing around with enjambment and line breaks. What are your thoughts, really quick, actually, on line breaks?
When I was much newer to, I want to say not necessarily writing poems, but definitely performing poems and putting poems out there into the world, I used to not really think or consider, line breaks or care where line breaks happened, or I didn't put a lot of intentionality behind them. I think a large reason for me was because I only really thought about myself reading the poem. So I never really thought, I'm going to have an issue with how this line break happens or what's happening in this poem, because I'm only thinking about myself reading and then maybe at some other time performing the poem. And one of the things that I found actually is that when I started working on line breaks, and when I started really, even after I wrote a poem, really thinking about what's happening in the poem, that would either be creating the requirement for a line break, or kind of what, even when I'm looking at a stanza, I'm like, okay, why is there first it's 4 lines and then 7 lines and then 3, it would just be all over the place a lot of times. So I think when you put some intentionality behind it, you can actually add another dimension to both the meaning and to what the reader is capturing in the poem. And it also helps you, I think, navigate your own work, because it adds some structure to what otherwise just might be you just going in there and just reading it, willy-nilly, and then hopefully, you read it in a way that's thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're reading it consistently in a way that adds some meaning to the word, adds an additional layer of meaning, I would say. So yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Now I've seen your poems and they have none of those.
I think I used to be, when I first started writing poetry, I was very much into meter, structured form.
I was a yardstick guy, but meters are
got you. Yeah, I was into a lot of sonnets, different type, Petrarchan and Shakespearean, and then so things are very kind of set in terms of meter. In fact,
have you ever written an Elizabethan?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
That's what forms.
Cool.
That's usually, if I could ever get stuck, I usually kind of fall back on forms, because I think the restrictions are also very freeing.
That's a metaphor.
And I think
just think of, you got to let that, the restrictions can be freeing.
Yeah.
Open your mind.
Your cage liberates you.
In this next essay, I'll bring out why prison's good. Get back to work. What?
um,
That took a turn.
and I think part of it also just kind of stemmed almost like from like a fear of free verse, because like I just didn't understand it, because it felt like there are no rules to this, and so meter was very safe, because it's like, okay, if you're doing like an iambic pentameter line, it's pretty predictable on where your endings kind of have to be. You have to navigate that, and so to take all those kind of barriers away um was very, it was kind of scary, because it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like, here we go. I have no idea where this train's going. I hope I end up somewhere. And I think you see kind of similar issues. A lot of people starting off with poetry, I find, start off with rhyme, and but it's not. It's almost like free verse rhyme, if that makes sense, because what you see is like, you'll see like one line's really short, and then one line's really long, but it ends on the rhyme.
Yeah.
So it's like there's like no meters. It's just, you're kind of just rhyming anytime you're like, okay, I need a rhyme here now. So it's like, just like not even aware that meter is a thing, and that's like, it's just trying to like combat that is something I was also kind of thinking about. And nowadays I feel much more comfortable. That's something that a lot of people, when they comment on my work, a lot of times it is comments on the line breaks and thinking they're interesting, and thinking that they lead to multiple interpretations of the poem. And I think that's something that's really key, is that that's something you kind of want your line breaks to be doing, to kind of drive momentum forward, which also means that I think the best line breaks tend to break away from predictability and expectation. One of the things from having worked with like Vivi Francis, one of the things she mentions that, line break, it's okay to end a line on like an article. You can end a line on like a the. It's okay to end a line on like a preposition. It's okay to end a line like mid sentence and things like that, when done, with intention in mind. And I think continuing to kind of just experiment with line breaks, just to kind of see how that opens things up, I think is really an important skill and an important practice. And that's something that we're going to be trying to take a look at today, because we have a poem written by ChatGPT. And I basically asked it to write a poem about a grocery store. Very exciting. And it actually wrote it just kept going. And I was like, oh, this poem, we're gonna write this like epic poem just about a grocery store. So I have taken, did I take the whole thing or just take a couple stanzas? Okay, just to kind of, we don't have to do the whole poem. I do want to read through it really quick, just to give you an idea what ChatGPT did. And again, I just asked it to write a poem about a grocery store. In aisles of commerce, brightly lit, where shoppers roam, their carts they push, the supermarket, a modern hub where dreams and hunger often meet. Aisle 1 with fruits in vibrant rows, apples, oranges, ripe and sweet, bananas in a golden bunch, nature's bounty, a colorful treat. Aisle 2, the vegetables thrive, carrots, broccoli, lettuce, green, tomatoes ripe, and peppers, bright a garden's harvest, a healthy scene. Down aisle 3, the grains abound, pasta, rice, and bread. In stacks, cereals with promises of health, nourishment found in countless packs. Aisle 4, the canned goods stand tall, soups, beans, and sauces galore, preserved in jars, for days ahead, convenient at the heart of the store. Aisle 5, the dairy section gleams, milk and cheese, yogurt too, a dairy farmer's daily gift to build our bones, make us anew. Aisle 6, where meats and fish reside, chicken, beef, and seafoods grace, protein packed, they fuel our strength for meals that bring a smile to our face. Aisle 7, the snacks more, chips and chocolates, cookies, and more for moments of indulgence and joy in this vast supermarket store. Aisle 8, with household wares from cleaning supplies to kitchenware, all the tools for daily life in this one-stop shopping affair. At the checkout, the lines may form, but patience reigns. As we all wait for in this modern marketplace, we find what we need and satiate. So in the supermarket's bustling hum, amid the choices big and small, we gather sustenance for our days. With full hearts, we thank them all. So one thing really confused me is that okay, so we have a rhyme scheme, but the first
For sure.
stanza didn't rhyme. I was like, what we doing,
And the
chat?
second one didn't rhyme.
It did. Sweet treat.
Oh.
It's just
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
that's
A
off.
B C B.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Kind of a weird rhyme scheme. I thought that was weird. But
yeah, it feels like a preamble. It feels like this is how it almost feels like they're kind of getting you ready for the poem, and then the rest of it is the poem.
Mhm. Yeah, which makes sense. The other ones are mostly aisles.
Yeah.
I also wanted to see, does it have some? No, it didn't do it. Okay, I thought it did something, but it didn't do it. Okay, so we're gonna play around with this, see if we can make this a more interesting poem.
Sorry,
No offense
Chat
to ChatGPT, but
I know you hate when we edit your poems.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this from the future and you're our overlords, well, just understand we knew our limitations. We're not trying to write a poem as good as yours. It's just different.
Different is key. So let's play around with this stanza here. And of course, if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this with us live right now, you can always float in your suggestions for things. But in aisles of commerce, brightly, I already have an idea for a line. Let's kind of do this. You want to take turns?
Okay.
And so I'm gonna say where I want a line break to go, and then you tell me where you want the next line break to go, and we'll kind of just alternate. And I'm gonna save the original so we can like just compare.
So in our editing process, are we doing any kind of word elimination, or are we just doing line breaks?
Let's just do line breaks. Let's kind of see where it goes because our focus is entirely on jam it. So we're gonna take this phone, play around with line breaks. So I'm gonna nominate a line break here. And aisles of commerce brightly. Where would you like the next line break to go?
Where shoppers roam their carts. Where shoppers roam.
I have lots of interesting ideas here.
Between carts and they.
That's where I was going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, great minds think somewhat similar. And yeah.
Already very different, right?
They push the supermarket. Lit where shoppers roam their carts. They push the supermarket. Because even with that, if you, I mean, I guess you need the comma, but without the comma, that would be interesting. Like where they push the supermarket.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing is that when you're writing lines, like trying to create lines that can work independently, but also in the context of the stanza, the more you can do that, I think the more effective. I'm going to put a line break after supermarket.
Push the supermarket, a modern hub where dreams and hunger.
It is here.
Okay.
I'm going to read the poem just to what we have so far. So in aisles of commerce, brightly lit where shoppers roam, their carts, they push the supermarket. And then Matthias is going to pick a line break for us.
Modern hub where dreams and hunger often. It's weird. So wait, are we keeping the four-line stanzas?
We can break the stanzas beyond 4 lines. That's fine.
Okay. Because if that's the case, man, but I
get wild. Go crazy.
Okay, I'm gonna say this.
Get
between
crazy.
often and meet.
That's actually what I was thinking as well.
Nice. It feels like wrong to do, but it feels like I also right.
I think another interesting one would have been a modern hub where, and then dreams and hunger often meet. That's an interesting.
That's an interesting one too. I like that.
Dreams and hunger often meet. That's the line. That's a poem. That's a super interesting line. I might have to caught that one. But
ChatGPT is like just looking at it. Don't play George.
But that's the fun part, like playing around with lines. So right now, again, we just have the line
Yeah.
"dreams and hunger often meet." Also, you got that's a nice. You have your I ams. I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's short keys. Dreams and hunger often meet. Da, 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 da. I like that. Do you want me to keep that or do the other one?
I'm gonna look away and then look at. In aisles of commerce brightly lit where shoppers roam, their carts they push the supermarket, a modern hub where dreams and hunger often meet. A modern hub where dreams, wait, a modern hub, and then the next line would be where dreams and hunger often meet.
No, the other it was dreams and hunger often meet.
Oh, a modern hub where dreams and hunger. Yeah, let's do this. Yeah,
I
I
like
like this
this.
configuration.
I like this, but it's also a little bit to the eyes. It's a little bit more pleasing. Cool. I like this stanza more.
Yeah.
Let me fish out the original just to compare. Buried it pretty deep. Okay. So again, you'll need to see this on the video version, but we're going to just compare what we got. So the original is this first one. That was a commerce brightly lit, where shoppers roam, the carts they push, the supermarket, a modern hub, where dreams and hunger often meet. And then we get, and now's a commerce brightly lit, where shoppers roam, their carts they push, the supermarket, a modern hub, where dreams and hunger often meet. That's such a good line. God, that's a good line.
Yeah, that last line is really because it's
so
like dreams
good.
and hunger often meet because the thing that my brain does when after you already say hunger, now I'm thinking of meat, like MEAT.
But it's also like,
but then it's like they hunger, dreams and hunger meeting. It adds,
there is
kind
that
of a double
play.
entendre.
It's that, but I think there's also I think it also speaks to a more universal truth, right? Because I feel like the dream and hunger, like what is it? Like you dream of something, you hunger for it, and I think that comes across so much more. Like if you say like, oh, like I
Jeff is
dream
going to
of
be like
a
an
bigger
inspirational
house, you know?
speaker, and like this is the first iteration. Like after this, he's going to have like one of those little microphones. He's going to have like a
Little
black
headsets.
sweater.
It's like-
You could be more than you are, poets. Stop writing poems.
But I think if we keep it in the original, you don't get that sense.
No.
I'm so grounded in the supermarket, I can't get there. But when I just by moving where to the line above it and keeping dreams and hunger often meet, this feels so much more like kind of like almost like a universal kind of like commentary.
Yeah. And I think this is a really good kind of insight into kind of cutting the fat from your poems. I mean, this is kind of like a side, maybe a side discussion, but like I think whatever when ChatGPT is writing poems, I think a lot of the things that poets do when they're writing poems are kind of eliminated because I don't, I'm not like a expert on ChatGPT, but it seems like ChatGPT is looking to kind of communicate the message as opposed to I mean, maybe it's making art and it will be human one day, sure. But yeah, like when we're talking about kind of, and I'm not the best at this, to be clear. Like Jeff is a lot better. And so when we're talking about somebody creating a poem and you're able to kind of eliminate the words that aren't necessarily needed in the poem or things that you might be either redundant or they don't make your message any stronger. When you do that, then you can kind of do stuff like this where you're able to really sort out just using the words that you have, being able to take it from what was, I mean, the argument, okay, it was an okay poem. It was a great poem, ChatGPT. But an okay poem, and you can turn it into something that seems a little bit better. You only have like kind of the useful parts to work with.
Essentially, you used the word cut, but we didn't even cut anything. The only thing we did, but like it's just.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like when you have, I think when you have like an overabundance of like other words, and it would make this job harder because the thing that we're doing right now is just using what we have, and because what we have is most of it art is
Mhm.
things that convey the message fairly clearly. We don't have to deal with
Mhm.
a lot of other kind of like other things or filler in the poem.
Mhm. If you wanted to even take it a step further, one thing I do very often in my poems nowadays is I just don't use punctuation because I think punctuation is it limits interpretation. But like one of the things I think if we take out the punctuation here, it opens up interpretation so much more. It opens up that idea of they push the supermarket more.
Yeah.
This where suddenly can become a question on its own, or it can become a descriptive phrase for the modern hub. Like it just opens up the interpretation so much more.
That could be a really cool workshop, I think, having somebody
Just take
essentially.
out your punctuation.
Right. Well, no, I mean, yeah, because I mean, I don't think I really thought about punctuation limiting interpretation, but I think it's like, I mean, everything that you're doing when it comes to formulating your sentences is is a way to clarify and more laser focus on exactly what you mean,
Mhm.
right? And one of the really fun things about poems is like, yeah, like maybe you have an overall purpose and trajectory for your poem, but the more that you can kind of open it up to a different understanding while still being like laser, like you still want to have, I would say, I mean, maybe everybody has different things that they want to do with their poems, but if you have a specific message that you're trying to convey or something specific that you're trying to paint with your poem, like I think it might be good. But then if you have an
Mhm.
avenue in your poem that leads you, that can lead the reader to some kind of interpretation, like, oh, but I also thought about this, and when I read that line in the poem, this is where
Mhm.
it took me. But regardless of where it took me, it's like I could still see when you're saying this is what the poem is about. Like I can see that in underlying in
Mhm.
the poem. So
Mhm.
that's good.
I think a lot of people are afraid to lose the clarity when they take punctuation away. It's kind of like how I felt when I first did free verse. Like it's
Mm,
uncomfortable, you because it's like it's just a whole new world. Because it's there are these you have to trust your reader to do some work. You know,
yeah.
so like when you by not having the punctuation here, so like in Hours of Commerce Brightly, lit where shoppers roam their carts. It creates this imbalance a bit because it's like, is the brightly referring to the lit? Is the lit just for this line? Is like, what is the connection? Like, it's just you're trusting your reader to make connections a lot more, which I think from a reader's perspective is actually very rewarding because I think the last thing a reader wants is for you to kind of hold their hand and pull it through a poem. They want to kind of be able to work a little bit. I think that's part of the rewarding nature of poetry. Um,
Yeah.
so
A really fun thing about poems too that I think you get when you don't necessarily when you're not so hyper specific because of, and I
mhm,
think a lot of times it's like you don't trust your reader. A lot of, well, I guess the second condition is also you don't trust your reader, but it's also that you have such a, you're kind of a control freak in a way, and you're like, I really need you to get exactly this exactly
right.
from my poem when I'm saying it. And so, and that, I think that's what gets people a lot of times when
Mhm,
they essentially they
mhm,
restate the first line, the line they just said, but they have to say it in a different
mhm,
way a little bit so that now when somebody's hearing it, like, oh man, maybe that was a little bit unclear, the next line makes it a lot clearer.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, it's, there's kind of those two things going on. But one of the fun things about poems for me is like reading a poem. I might read a poem 3 years ago that I read again, and maybe my experiences and things that I maybe have learned in that time
right,
makes me
right.
read the poem differently. And so, if you have a poem that you can take both at face value and you can introspect a little bit deeper into, I mean, that's kind of the best of both worlds.
Let's take a look at another stanza. Play
Stanza.
around. I'll let you go first.
Which one are we doing? We're doing the second one. All
Yes.
right. So
We're
here, let's read the stanza first, and then
uh-huh.
we'll. Aisle one, with fruits in vibrant rows, apples, oranges, ripe and sweet, bananas in a golden bunch, nature's bounty, a colorful treat. All right. I think off the bat, I would say vibrant and rose.
That's actually what I was thinking too. Rose, apples. Yeah, like the nouns: rose, apples, oranges, ripe. It needs to be ripe. There's so many more opportunities now. There's already so much more open of a poem.
Ripe and sweet bananas.
So again, our first two lines now are aisle 1 with fruits and vibrant. Next line, rose, apples, oranges, ripe. Just so much punch.
Yeah,
here.
that is a good line. Rose, apples, oranges, ripe. Yeah, I like that. And sweet bananas and a golden bunch. I almost want to do between sweet and bananas.
Right here?
If I'm getting crazy.
Here?
Yeah.
Like this?
Ripe and sweet. Bananas and a golden bunch.
Okay.
That feels right to me.
Like
what do you
that?
think?
Not where I would have put it.
Where would you have put it?
I would have put it. I probably would have done it after bananas. And then that would have opened things up for the next line.
What do you think about between bounty and A?
Because then you could have got something like this. It's like aisle 1 with fruits and vibrant, rose, apples, oranges, ripe and sweet, bananas, and a golden bunch, nature's bounty, a colorful treat.
That's solid. I like.
But where was let's see. I want to go back to what you were saying though. You were saying in sweet.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the next line though. So let me see. Ripe and sweet, bananas and a golden bunch.
Well, the next line's my job.
Bananas and a golden bunch.
I mean, it definitely is. It's unexpected. So you have a 2-word line. After this is the shortest line that we've had so far. Aisle 1, comma with fruits and vibrant. Next line, rose, apples, oranges, ripe and sweet. So obviously, sweet becomes super super strong now.
Yeah,
because it's a 2-word line, lots of negative space. Yeah, and sweet. I went to do bananas in, which leaves us with this. And sweet, line break. Bananas in, line break. And now our line is a golden bunch, nature's bounty, a colorful treat. Matthias is going to break this up somewhere or leave it.
I was nature's and bounty. I agreed with that line break. I think that was like a really strong line break. A golden bunch, nature's.
One with fruits and vibrant, rose, apples, oranges, ripe and sweet, bananas in, a golden bunch, nature's bounty, a colorful treat. I think the highlight of this one is the rose, apples, oranges, ripe. The rhythm there is really good.
Yeah.
Cool. That was our version. We'll compare that to ChatGPT's original.
ChatGPT's. I need a written out version.
We do. One or two more.
I wanted to show. Well, maybe I don't know if we can pull it up on here, but after we get done with this, I want to.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about it? Or do you want to keep going?
No, it's another. It was okay. It's an example of this, but
okay. All right. So next one. This is me. I'm starting.
Yeah.
Okay.
lettuce green, tomatoes ripe, and peppers bright, a garden's harvest, a healthy scene.
I guess the most immediate one is just line break after vegetables. Bow to the vegetables line break. The next line currently is thrive, carrots, broccoli, lettuce, green.
Between lettuce and green.
So, I think it's a pretty clear choice.
I don't even necessarily feel particularly strong about the choice, but I just don't feel strong about any. I don't feel anything about anywhere else except for
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah. Green tomatoes ripe. Green tomatoes ripe. So the line currently is green tomatoes ripe and peppers bright. I'm thinking.
Oh, never mind. Actually, it's your turn.
I'm gonna pause after and green tomatoes ripe and. Now our last line currently is peppers bright, comma, garden's harvest, comma, a healthy scene.
Garden's ripe and pepper.
Oh, I know where I would put it. There's only one right answer. No, I'm just kidding.
Because okay, in my head, I was thinking about the line above: green tomatoes ripe and peppers, and then that way the next line: green tomatoes ripe and peppers, and then the next line: bright, a garden's harvest, and then next line.
See, I like this because it almost makes bright into a verb, like peppers bright, a gardens. I mean, obviously, the real verb would be brighten the gardens, but I think it
I guess you're
that
right.
sense.
Yeah,
but I see what you're saying too.
Peppers bright, a garden's harvest. Yeah, well, yeah, I think if that's then between harvest and a, that would make more sense.
So here, like this, a garden's harvest, a healthy scene.
To the direct middle of the letter A. Just I want half the A.
See
at the top.
See what I'm thinking. So cool. So basically, the way it is right now, aisle 2, comma, the vegetables, thrive, comma, carrots, comma, broccoli, comma, lettuce, green, comma, tomatoes ripe, comma, and next line, peppers bright, comma, a garden's harvest, comma, a healthy scene. So something that you could do if we played around with these line breaks a little bit more, and with the punctuation, I'm going to take off punctuation. I want to show you something. Out to the vegetables. Now it becomes like a command. Thrive carrots, like it's just like you're telling them what to do, right? Thrive carrots, broccoli, lettuce, green tomatoes. Now the green can apply to lettuce, or it can apply to tomatoes more directly. Green tomatoes ripe and peppers bright. Peppers bright. A gardens. I would move harvest. I would have done harvest, and then take off the comma. And now you got a verb. Harvest, a healthy scene.
Yeah.
The other one works too. But that's what kind of stood out to me here. So, like, one of the things that I like about removing punctuation is it adds the ambiguity with words, because suddenly words can take on not only additional meanings, but they can also take on additional parts of speech. Because originally, if we kept the punctuation, harvest has to stay a noun. But when you remove the punctuation, because before there was that comma, right? But when you take out that comma, now you have that ambiguity where it could be the noun, a garden's harvest, or it can become this command, this imperative, like harvest a healthy scene. Same thing with like thrive. So what do you think?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I got to try this removing punctuations.
Punctuation is so unnecessary.
This has been really holding me back. I'm just gonna start speaking and run on sentences.
But that's the thing, because like it's not like it's.
No, I know. I was just saying, but yeah,
I hear you. But I think It just opens things up so much more when you don't have it. I don't think was that the right one. That was not the right stanza. Hang on. I'll take a look at. Let's do maybe one more. That was this one. And then we can compare poems to our version. Okay. I'll let you start this one.
So let's read it regular first, and then we'll down aisle 3. The grains abound, pasta, rice, and bread in stacks, cereals with promises of health, nourishment found in countless packs. Packs.
Okay, where would you like your first line breaks?
Ooh, man. Okay, wait, I got 2.
I think there's a lot of actually interesting things you could do here. You can also keep it the same if you.
I don't want to keep it this. I want to keep it the same. I'm having some.
You get really weird here if you wanted.
Okay, the weirdest I can get is down an aisle. The slightly less weird is grains in abound. Down aisle 3, the grains abound.
Oh, like down, like right after down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think it also maybe. Depending on how the rest of it goes, like if I was like writing it, depending how the rest of the stanza would go, you can do some interesting things with the fact that you started it with down,
right?
And like down as a singular word line. But then also, I think where I would naturally put it if I wasn't thinking about doing it would be between grains and abound. So
I think that's the more expected one. Yeah. I was thinking down aisle because I like what that would do 3 to grains. I thought that's interesting. Let's do down. Down aisle 3. So it's right now down is on its own line. Where do I want to put a break? Aisle 3. If I'm viewing this especially as like a unit, like a stanza, like a complete poem, then this feels like it's kind of like the stanza where things start kind of going crazy. So
get crazy. Let's get crazy.
So
where's that from?
It's the son from the Teletubbies.
What did we just see?
We're gonna let Jeff watch some movies.
It's a long list. I don't know if we have enough time. So I'm getting weird. I'm going to put a line break after the. So down aisle 3, the grains abound, and then we get grains abound, pasta, rice, and bread in stacks.
Okay, so if I didn't feel like I had an opportunity to do another edit in between, I would put it between in and stacks because I like the way that stacks cereal with promises. But if I'm thinking, okay, I just whatever I want to do with the line, grains abound, pasta.
That's your pasta?
Grains abound, pasta. Yeah, grains abound. Oh yeah, pasta. Yeah, pasta.
That's your pasta?
Yeah.
So aisle 3, the line. Grains abound, pasta line. Rice and bread in stacks.
Okay. Also, something that's interesting that's happening here that I didn't realize was happening is that we're kind of getting a really interesting kind of slope progression in the lines. We're probably going to be breaking that up here soon. I just want just wanted to say that while it was happening, let's just think about it.
Noted. All right.
Noted. Now let me shake up your world.
Pasta, rice. Rice and bread in stacks. I guess cereals. So we have down line aisle 3, the line grains abound, pasta line rice and bread in stacks, cereals.
Between nourishment and found.
Okay. So we have down line break aisle 3, the line break grains abound, pasta line break rice and bread in stacks, cereals line break with promises of health, nourishment line break found in countless packs.
Now, as a side note, if I was writing the poem, I would probably, maybe for my sense of sanity, I'd probably adjust aisle 4 the and aisle 4 the. I would move that up to the line above it, and in that way it'd be found in countless pack aisle 4 the, aisle 4 the, and then now we have the next line.
I would keep the canned goods.
I don't know, because if you have aisle 4 the, and then I think what it would do to the stanza, it would elongate the stanza, maybe past nourishment, and then canned goods stand tall feels like a really good line to canned goods stand, and then you could also elongate that stanza and have it descending and growing slimmer downward, so it feels like it's standing.
I could see that visual. Yeah, I could see that. The one thing I like about not having the here is that it plays more with the found in.
That's true.
Because like found in countless packs, aisle 4. You know what I mean? Which to me feels a lot more. It's a little bit more of a pleasing close to the stanza. Whereas if it ends on that there's a tension there because your reader's waiting for it. Which I mean, it can still propel you forward too. This feels more complete to me. So I think it kind of depends on, do you want the stanza to feel kind of more complete, or do you want the stanza to really require the reader to forcing them lower?
That's fair.
I don't think there's a wrong answer there. Kind of just depends what you're going for. I like that suggestion because I wasn't feeling the stanza as much, but I like that idea of moving up aisle 4. This spot. I'm looking at to see if there's anything else that I would change that might. Yeah, this one's kind of tricky. I don't think the words are kind of harder to layer with like multiple meanings.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, I like it. I like it more than I like any configuration I can think of.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. Same. Very, very different than where we started. So again, our ChatGPT version originally was down aisle 3, the grains abound. Pasta, rice, and bread in stacks. Cereals with promises of health. Nourishment found in countless packs. Our version. Down aisle 3, the grains abound. Pasta, rice and bread in stacks, cereals with promises of health, nourishment found in countless packs. Aisle 4. I like the aisle 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Out for.
All right. I'm going to pause this here. Any kind of last final thoughts on our little exercise here?
Yeah, no, I was actually so I mean, kind of bringing it back to where we kind of started with. I think when we were talking about line breaks, I think that uh, ironic. I don't know, say maybe ironically enough, but one of my favorite artists, I know you know Andre 3000.
Yeah.
So like, if you ever look at his verses written out, I think it's one of the I think one of the coolest like layouts when it comes to like how he breaks up lines because oftentimes he'll break up lines in the middle of words.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
he'll break up lines in the middle, like in the way that
Mhm.
he's like rapping, he'll break up lines in these really kind of unsuspecting. And I think rhythmically it really, really works because the way he's rapping. And then when you're looking at it, it's like, oh, like I think the way that he's and again you rappers are always I think you know rhyme and double entendre are rhyme metaphor and double entendre and like similes are like you know the
Mhm.
rappers like those are, and maybe not even double entendre so much like it's like you know as much as just like straight up metaphor. So but yeah, I was gonna try to show you but it's probably too much to try to push it on there. But if you look up on well I mean probably the most accessible and one of his more I don't want to say most favorite verses, although it is the verse that I think that if I talk to somebody who's not a huge rap fan that they still know this verse because they play it a lot at weddings, which is the International Players Anthem. Have you heard of
Mhm.
you've heard the song, right?
I'm horrible with song titles. I would need to imagine if I heard it, I would know what you're talking about.
We'll listen to it. I don't know if we
Yeah.
can listen to it on YouTube. But International Players Anthem, his verse, which is, I mean, it's an incredible verse. But in that verse, the way that the lines are broken up, and the way that Andre raps, which is really it's really indicative of how he always is breaking up verses and things like that. You can kind of look at really any of his verses, especially the ones that he's been doing since Outkast broke up. I don't know if they would call it breaking up as much
Mhm.
as like they're not doing albums. They didn't do albums
Mhm.
together anymore.
Mhm.
But you would see him do like these one-off verses for you know different people's albums and stuff like that. But the way he breaks down verses and the way I would assume like he just thinks about you know his rhyme schemes is really interesting because he's doing these interesting line breaks within rhyme schemes. So the rhyme
Mhm.
scheme, I think a lot of times when rhyming poets are writing their rhyming poems, right? Like the rhyme scheme is very predictable,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
and because the rhyme scheme is predictable, it kind of especially I've seen a lot of people like you know we've been to a lot of open mics. If you go to somebody who's a rhyming poet and you know what their poem is about and they've been doing their poem for long enough, you can kind of hear the start of one line and know how the next line's going to end because you, you know
Yeah.
maybe the reaches of the
Yeah.
vocabulary and you know what's happening.
I know the reaches.
I don't
What an
know.
insult.
That's no, it's to
I
say
know the
you know the
reaches
things
of
that are
your
happening in the poem, right?
vocabulary.
And so you can kind of predict to a degree what's happening in the poem. But I think that if you can tr- like try to contort the work or contort the poems into kind of again just
Mhm.
using rhyme scheme and like because I'm not necessarily not a fan of rhyme scheme. I don't think that I think that a lot of poets use it as like you know they're afraid to kind of go around away from that. But it's also I think rhyme scheme depending on maybe the show or the audience kind of gets a really really stark good reaction. So it just kind of depends. But yeah, I think if you're going to be using rhyme scheme, I think it would be fun to break up the rhyme scheme in a way that is not as expected. Again, see International Players Anthem because like that's an incredible verse, but it also again the line breaks and the rhyme scheme work vastly different than your typical.
Yeah. Let's listen to Outcast, guys. That's your plug.
Outcast, do it.
Yeah.
You deserve it. You
Do it.
deserve it.
Do
Trust
it.
me.
Do it. All right, that's kind of all.
Oh, I got it. So okay, so actually, so me and Jeff were supposed to be doing a show on Saturday, but then
it gets
I
really
know
sad.
that
It gets
sad violence. We were supposed to be doing a show together, hot sauce poetry this coming up Saturday, but unfortunately, so Jeff is not going to be. So I think we talked about it a little bit, but Jeff just won't be at the show. I'm going to be at the show.
So Matthias is featuring. He's
well,
featuring on Saturday.
Me and my wife. So we're both doing the show. So if you so I switched out for somebody that was in my wedding for just another person that was in my wedding. So so we're gonna be performing this Saturday, and if you're in Columbus, you should come through. And if you're not in Columbus, then like why are you watching this? Because what are you doing here? I'm joking.
Cool.
But yeah.
Again, so that's on Saturday. It's at 7. It's like 7:30 to 10:30 or something like that. Yeah. It's a long show. 3 hours is a long show, man. It's a long.
Great promo, Jeff.
Save it for It's a long show because they earned it.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, again, our residency programs open up. We have a new Facebook group called Pep and Pizza where we're selecting people to join us for our monthly meetup.
For a slice of poetry.
And also free pizza and the free slice of poetry. Yeah. Once more, my name is Jeff.
My name is Matthias.
And we'll see you guys next time. You guys take care.